Maribel Avellino kept her shop in a narrow lane behind the riverfront market, at the precise spot where the paving stones changed from municipal gray to the creamy marble scraps donated by a long-defunct quarry. The neighbors claimed she had chosen the location because the seam between the two kinds of stone marked one of the city's gentlest fault lines, a place where invisible forces seeped up like ground. When asked, Maribel only smiled and tapped the thimble on her finger, as though the metal sphere answered every question worth asking. From the outside, her storefront looked ordinary, one plate glass window, a scarred wooden door, and a hum of small machines, yet passers-by always slowed. The window display rarely featured finished garments. Instead, it offered empty pockets. They hung from spools of silk thread or floated suspended by transparent fishing line like disembodied petals. No two pockets were alike. One might be red and scalloped like a tulip cup, another charcoal gray with a single brass stud, a tiny placard beneath them read, "Stitched to carry what hands cannot hold." Only the curious crossed the threshold. Those who expected shawls or hemming alterations found themselves blinking at bolts of fabric that writhed with colors not yet named. Those who expected nothing at all sometimes walked out holding more than they realized. It was a rainy Tuesday when Lila Moreno ducked inside, wind snapping at her umbrella, cheeks raw from the cold. She was 28, an assistant school principal with notebooks full of lesson plans and a head full of worries. That morning, the district had announced another round of budget cuts. Art, music, counseling, every program Lila loved, chopped onto the chopping block. She had promised her staff she would advocate at the next board meeting, but the thought of standing at a lectern beneath fluorescent lights while 7 stony-faced board members watched her tremble made her feel small enough to slip through a crack in the floor. A brass bell rang as she shut the door. The shop smelled of chamomile steam and cedar shavings. On a central table, pincushions shaped like sea urchins guarded stacks of fabric swatches. Hanging from the ceiling, dozens of glass jars held buttons, sorted by the melodies they made when dropped on a wooden counter. Sharp, tinny rain, mellow river rock clatter, soft summer hail. "Good afternoon," Maribel called, emerging from behind a curtain. She was neither tall nor short, her posture neither stiff nor stooped, and her hands bore the gentle polish of constant work. She wore a tool belt that clinked with scissors and needle case. Across her left forearm, luminous strands of thread were braided like bangles. "I'm just looking," Lila said, though of course that wasn't true. She was looking for something specific, but had no name for it. Maribel nodded, reading the distance behind Lila's eyes. "Take your time. Some shelves contain questions, others answers. You'll know which beckons." Lila drifted toward a wall where only pockets were arrayed like exotic butterflies. A deep blue velvet one caught her eye. Its shape reminded her of a harbor, open to the sea yet sheltered by jetty arms. She reached to touch it, expecting velvet's usual plushness, but under her fingertip pulsed an echo of steady drums, as if a heart beat inside. "What's in it?" she asked. "A dash of courage," Maribel replied, "harvested from things that refuse to break." Lila glanced at the price tag. It was not a dollar amount, but a small list. One memory you've outgrown. One promise to listen even to your own shaking voice. She looked up, startled. "Is this some kind of riddle?" "Payment takes many forms," Maribel said, stepping closer. "Tell me what weighs you down. I'll suggest what you might carry." The words spilled from Lila. Budget cuts, anxious teachers, the fear of appearing foolish in public. She hated microphones, hated having her knees visible behind a podium, hated the swallow and freeze that overtook her after the first sentence of any speech. Maribel listened, nodding. Then she held out the velvet pocket. "Courage stitched from storms and lighthouse beams. It won't keep you from trembling, but it will help you lift your chin while you do." Lila blinked back sudden tears. I can't." It felt ridiculous to trade a memory and a promise for fabric. Yet she heard herself say, "All right, I'll try." Maribel guided her to a writing desk. "Write down the memory you've outgrown. Fold it small enough to slip between the stitches." Lila wrote about her 7th grade talent show, the way her voice cracked mid-song and the auditorium's laughter drilled into her bones. She folded the paper until it was a stiff sliver. Maribel showed her how to tuck it into a lining seam, then stitched it shut with 3 quick passes of silver thread. "Now the promise," Maribel said. Lila breathed out. "I promise to listen, even to my own shaking voice." The seamstress nodded once, satisfied. She affixed a tiny copper snap. "Keep the pocket near your pulse." A blouse over your heart, perhaps? Lila paid with a credit card for the fabric and labor. Maribel's business still obeyed mundane utilities and rent, but neither mentioned the intangible cost again. When Lila left, the rain had thinned to a mist. She pressed the pocket against her chest and felt the measured thump of drums still playing inside. 2 evenings later, she stood at the school board meeting. Her palms sweated, and her voice quavered on the first syllable, yet an undercurrent, a harboring rhythm guided her breath. She spoke 10 minutes without glancing at her notes. At the end, one board member wiped his glasses. Another coughed to hide an unsteady exhale, and the budget vote was tabled for reconsideration. News of her speech rippled through the district like the first warm day of spring. Word of Maribel's pockets rippled the same way. Teachers whispered, neighbors gossiped, and soon others found the marble-lined lane. Among them were Esteban Nico's Benita, young father awaiting biopsy results, Eloise, an apprentice rig worker terrified of heights, and Mrs. Cavendish, whose adult daughter hadn't spoken to her in 5 years. For Esteban, Maribel sewed a pocket that shimmered translucent green. Its lining smelled of pine needles and campfire smoke. Patience, she said, spun from the slow breathing of mountains. For Eloise, she shaped a narrow pocket that crackled with laughter, the kind that sprints through a room, leaving people lighter than before. Because looking down from tall places, the seamstress explained, is easier when you carry your own updraft. For Mrs. Cavendish, she made a soft pocket of mauve cashmere that murmured forgiveness each time a hand rested on it. Not to erase what happened, Maribel cautioned, but to keep the blade from turning inward. Maribel never advertised. Stories did the work, stories told by parents while tying children's shoes, by nurses during shift changes, by shopkeepers sweeping their thresholds at dusk. They said Maribel could stitch sunlight into denim, that she braided hope thread from dandelion fluff, that she once mended a veteran's coat so each torn seam hummed lullabies when nightmares prowled. Some details were surely invention, yet every tale carried a shared heartbeat. Wherever people felt flimsy, she reinforced them. No one knew exactly where Maribel came from. Accents sketched her vowels, then vanished. An old photograph said she'd once been young on another continent. The city registry claimed she arrived 15 years ago on a cargo ferry. Only one certainty endured. She never turned away a customer who knocked after sunset. One night, 3 months after Lila's first visit, the shop's bell jingled past closing. A man stepped inside, shoulders rigid, jaw clenched. He wore a charcoal suit that fit like skin he was desperate to shed. When he removed his hat, rainwater streamed down sharp cheekbones. He stood silent, unsettled as a painting hung crooked. Welcome, Maribel said. Her voice softened the air's edges. What are you looking to carry? He stared at the hanging pockets, at spools glowing faintly like bioluminescent algae. Finally, he answered, silence. I need silence. Maribel's brow furrowed. Silence can soothe or suffocate. Which do you seek? The man's hands trembled. I represent New Horizon Industries. They're building a luxury complex on this block. Your leaseholder sold the property. Demolition begins in 60 days, he swallowed. My task is to convince every tenant to vacate. The shop's lamps flickered, then steadied. Maribel folded her arms, thimble catching candlelight. And the silence you seek? Guilt is loud, he said, voice cracking. People plead, beg. I need a pocket to drown them out. Maribel exhaled. I cannot craft cushions for cruelty. It's only business, he insisted. Everyone gets compensated. Price tags differ, she replied, but loss weighs the same. He scowled. If you won't help the offer stands, vacate early and receive a bonus. Is that why you came after hours, hoping shadows would dim the cost? He flinched. For a moment, his hard shell fissured. I thought maybe you could sew something to make it easier for me. Maribel regarded him, eyes neither cold nor warm, but clear as winter river water. Easier does not always mean better. She turned away, though gently, as if closing a book rather than slamming a door. The man hesitated, hat twisting in his grip, then stormed out, bell jangling like a struck nerve. Maribel locked the door behind him. Outside, neon from the riverfront taverns painted the street magenta. She touched the window pane, head bowed. 60 days until rubble? Next morning, Lila found a note by her classroom mailbox. M. Avellino may lose her shop. Tell those who carry her stitches. A lone blue thread was taped beneath, unmistakably Maribel's. At first, Lila felt the old flutter of doubt. Organizing people required more courage than speaking for them. Yet the velvet pocket still lay against her heart, drumming. She sent emails to teachers, posted on community boards, phoned Esteban, Eloise, Mrs. Von Cavendish, and anyone else rumored to possess a pocket. Each conversation unraveled a new story of quiet salvation. By nightfall, 27 people gathered at Café Paloma to plan. Over espresso and mint tea, they spread sketches across tables, alternative development proposals, petitions, press releases. Someone suggested a protest, another a street fair to celebrate local artistry. Lila listened, pen tapping the rim of her cup. She felt energy eddying like wind ahead of a storm. Then Esteban, cradling his toddler son, said, Maribel never asked for repayment, only for us to trust what she stitched. Now we return the favor. Eloise stood on a chair, laughter pocket pinned to her coveralls. We build an intangible barricade layered with what she gave us? The idea sounded foolish at first, intangible pockets against excavators. Yet, as she spoke, every face brightened. People scribbled pantry lists for courage, patience, forgiveness, joy. They would converge at the marble fault line every evening, each wearing their pocket outward, like a badge. The first gathering drew 36. They stood shoulder to shoulder, humming not any particular tune, but a composite of breaths, hope, skipped heartbeats. After half an hour, someone giggled. Laughter leapt from her pocket to another's, soon weaving through the crowd until even passers-by joined. Children chalked affirmations on the stones. Here we mend. Pockets of light carry one another. New Horizons site manager drove by that night. He found traffic stalled behind a wall of people whose only armor was fabric. He rolled his window up against the noise, yet found it bore no anger, only an unsettling warmth. Gatherings grew. Reporters arrived, cameras swiveling. Residents told their pocket stories on live radio and op-eds, on podcasts that hummed through subway cars. A retired judge confessed the pocket on his lapel had held humility during a landmark case. A food truck owner revealed that her salsa recipe tasted brighter whenever her joy pocket was tied around her wrist. The tale of intangible stitches enthralled a city tired of dollar signs measuring every square inch. New Horizons public relations team scrambled. They offered to sponsor a community center. They hired marketing consultants who coined slogans like progress with heart. Yet each offer rang hollow beside Maribel's quiet gifts. During this swirl, Maribel continued working. She accepted fabric deliveries, mended skirts, tea-dyed muslin, and greeted every customer. But under her calm, Leela noticed fine, cracked fatigue at her temples, a sudden hush in her laughter. One evening, Lila lingered after closing. You're mending us, she said. Let us mend you too. Maribel threaded a needle. Some tears sit too deep for another's hand. Then teach us, Lila pleaded. Show us how to stitch what can't be held. Maribel studied her, then nodded and locked the front door. She led Lila to a back workroom lit by a single stained glass lamp. Shelves overflowed with jars labeled Dawn Hush, Threshold, Unbroken Cries, Late Blooming Belief. Maribel selected a spool of thread so pale it seemed woven from moonlight. This, she said, placing the spool in Lila's palm, is resolve, gathered from people who finish what frightens them. She demonstrated 2 running stitches, 1 backstitch, a tiny knot, whispered words to anchor intention. Lila's first attempt tangled, but Maribel coaxed patience from the spool, from the air, from their own pulses. By midnight, Lila had sewn a small square pocket onto her sleeve. Inside thrummed resolve. You'll need it, Maribel said simply. Day 47 of the countdown arrived. New Horizon filed for an injunction claiming the gatherings obstructed lawful development. A hearing was scheduled. Lila was subpoenaed as lead organizer. She entered the courtroom wearing a navy blazer, the new pocket hidden beneath the cuff. The man in the charcoal suit, Mercer Sloan, she learned, sat at the opposing counsel's table, eyes rimmed red. Their gazes met only once. He looked away first. Arguments rose and fell like tides. New Horizon leaned on property rights and economic growth. Lila's attorney spoke of cultural heritage, intangible assets, communal well-being. When Lila testified, she stated calmly, "We carry what cannot be priced." She described children racing with courage in their jacket linings, widowers tucking memories into stitched stars. She quoted city statutes protecting historic artisan districts. But more than that, she inhaled the steady drumline of resolve and exhaled sentences bright as sparklers. Outside, supporters wove a tapestry of pockets across the courthouse steps. Media helicopters broadcast aerial shots that made the fabric squares resemble a living mosaic. The judge deliberated 2 weeks. On day 59, he ruled. While acknowledging the developer's rights, he declared the lane of marble and granite, including Maribel's shop, a cultural landmark of intangible craftsmanship and communal resilience. Demolition was restricted. Renovation had to accommodate existing artisans. New Horizon could proceed only by incorporating, not erasing, the heartbeat they had tried to silence. Celebration erupted. Maribel's shop overflowed with flowers, handwritten notes, and awkwardly home-baked muffins. The seamstress accepted each gift with a bow of her head, but insisted, "Remember, you carried yourselves." Late that night, Leela returned. The shop was quiet, smelling of lavender and laundry starch. Pockets in the windows swayed like lanterns. "I came to say thank you," Leela said. "And I to say the same," Maribel replied. "Your sleeves are full now." Layla looked at the 2 pockets curved against her heart, resolve at her wrist. "You taught us to stitch. Could the rest of us keep the practice alive?" Maribel led her to a cupboard brimming with empty spools. "Take these. Thread waits to become itself between many hands." Layla gathered them. "Will you stay?" "For a while," Maribel said. "Seams hold as long as they are cared for." Her smile held both sunrises and farewells. In the months that followed, sewing circles sprouted at the library on Thursday nights, at laundromats on Sundays, beneath elm trees in summer. People traded stories, traded stitches. A taxi driver sewed calm into armrest covers for nervous passengers. A ceramicist embedded wonder into smocks so apprentices would keep playing with impossible shapes. A barista lined her apron with listening to remember every name at the morning rush. As for Mr. Sloane, he returned to the lane one dusk, hat in hand, steps hesitant. He found Maribel rearranging window pockets. "I've resigned," he said. "Hard to sell people out once you see what they're made of." Maribel nodded. "And what do you wish to carry now?" He answered without pause. "Remorse, until it softens into repair." She guided him to a bolt of ash-gray linen. Together, they stitched a small, sturdy pocket. He slipped it inside his coat near the place where hopes go hungry and left with shoulders no longer rigid but relearning curve. 1 year later, the luxury complex rose behind the artisan row, gleaming glass beside time-worn brick. Visitors stepping onto the marble seam felt something hume. An underfoot chorus of drums, laughter, resolve, forgiveness, wonder. They might not name it, but they found themselves walking taller, breathing deeper, lingering longer. And when they wandered into shops, some looking for tailored pants, others only shelter from rain, they paused at displays of empty pockets and read a placard, "Stitch to carry what hands cannot hold." More than a slogan, it became a promise, for in this city, stitched across a fault line, people remembered when life tore at their seams, they could always mend, one invisible thread at a time.